What are your thoughts of what you see right now with college football, with things that were not available when you were at Baylor and waited your time, and especially not only the open transfer portal, but also NIL?
What do I do? Man, I think in short, it's definitely already implemented itself as changing the entire culture and changing the entire demographic of what we knew of as college football when I was there. I think you're seeing kids nowadays that aren't focused nearly as much as the coaching staff and the culture and the players as it is, what can you offer me? And then more importantly as well, is how quick can I leave here to go find money somewhere else? And so I think it's just changing the entire dynamic of what college football is. We knew it, the purity of it. It's going to be a business. It already is a business.
Bryce, what kept you from, even because you would have had to sit out a year, what kept you from transferring outside of sitting out a year? Because you were already not starting until your third year.
Yeah, I mean, and I think I've talked to this point several times when I talk about my story. I mean, it was never really ingrained in me to jump ship, and not to say, I mean, everybody's situation is different from a timing perspective and what else is out there now. It is a lot easier to transfer, but for me, man, it was I put the time in. I committed to Coach Bryce. I committed to our staff and our locker room, and so I wanted to see that through, regardless of if I was going to get 3 games or if I was going to get 30 games.
Bryce, you saw the quarterback competition this past spring. Blake Shapen named the starter. Gary Bohannon subsequently into the transfer portal and now going to USF. I mean, in theory, I guess you could kind of speak to 2 points. I mean, first of all, your thoughts on Shapen getting the nod and Gary's exit, but also the handling by Dave Aranda to do it when he did. And, I mean, he could have, Bryce, just dragged this out until the fall and had Gary Bohannon still on the roster. So what are your thoughts on both sides of that coin?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a major component to how coaches navigate this situation, because now you're at a place where it's going to be really hard to recruit quarterbacks to actually grow and develop them, knowing that, hey, if I don't play, I'm just going to go somewhere else. Again, with Gary's situation, it's a little bit different. He's played. Blake Shapen was called the starter, so I get that and understand that. But what's interesting about it from Aranda's point is I think what you see is what you get, which is a beautiful thing in the world of sports nowadays. He's not going to sit there and hold Gary, even though he's going to lose a roster spot. He's going to lose a seasoned vet, a guy that can win games, backing up, because the problem is now if Blake Shapen, knock on wood here, gets injured, your whole team's in trouble. And so I think a lot of teams are going to, have to navigate that in a really interesting way. But, to Gary, I can't thank the guy enough for all the time and effort he's put into the program. And you can tell he's a great leader. I just think that, at least me being on the sidelines, no pun intended, I've already done that too damn much. But me being on the sidelines and kind of watching from afar, Blake, I think, did present a few of the intangibles that might have edged out Gary in terms of, can we win close games? Can we stay in games where we should be out? And those are all things that I know Coach Aranda and Coach Bell and Grimes all had to weigh when they made this decision. And now it's about sticking behind your decision and allowing Blake Shapen to really develop as a leader, knowing that he is the guy now, and it's not a chase or a limbo. Now it's kind of game on, and it's your locker room. Take it over.
Speaking of that, it's your locker room. Back when you were there at Baylor and saw what RG3, Nick Florence, yourself did, what's it like? Who is in charge of making sure the locker room stays together no matter the quarterback decision?
Yeah, I think it was really by committee. It's not any one guy. It's kind of it's a group, it's a community, whether it's senior led, whether it's position group led. I think you have to have veteran guys, and that's where, now I think that's kind of moved over from more of the defensive skill position or some of our skill positions where it was last year to being more interior, on that offensive defensive line. They need to know that, Baylor is going to run them. It's going to be, the games that we win and lose are most likely going to be won at line of scrimmage. And they need to take a whole lot of pride in that. And to your point, it starts in the locker room. And so that's where I think that most of that leadership goes to those interior guys. And that's the way it needs to be. Your big guys up front need to set the tone in the locker room and how, practices are orchestrated. The level of intensity that guys have need to run through them. And that's what we always had. We always had really solid leaders that did a really good job of setting that tone early.
Bryce, Bijan Robinson just got a Lambo in an NIL deal. What would have been the most on-brand NIL deal for Bryce Petty as a young college student?
Shoot, man. I might say a Benelli shotgun, big duck hunter, something like that. I don't necessarily know if I could fit in a Lamborghini. I actually have a picture that I'll send you guys over Twitter of me getting out of a Lamborghini. It doesn't fit well. But that's the shoot, man, the day and age of a kid, just wearing sweats and ordering through Taco Bell is it ain't that anymore. And so the money's going to have to be shelled out. And I just hope that guys still have the same mentality to prove and give everything to that locker room and give everything on that field in college to get to the next level, to where you can truly, enjoy the fruits of your labor versus, hey, you're a kid out of high school that we really want you. Here's a Lamborghini. I'm not saying that's Bijan Robinson, because that dude's a freak, and it's definitely produced for them. But I think it's one of those things that's going to change the dynamic of how kids treat college football. Whereas, before it was, like I said before, the purity of the sport is to get to the NFL, and now it's almost just to be a 5-star recruit.
No, it is, and get your best deal. Do you feel like with what is now the college football landscape that it would almost be something that each student athlete, no matter the sport, should have to take a class in money management? Now, you could be 50 years old and still screw up money. You could be 70 years old or 28 years old. Do you feel like that's something that's important that should be a part of the academic, whatever it's called?
Smoak, it's almost the only thing that I feel like, from a practical standpoint or a foundation of life, that you can take from college, outside of college, is how to manage your finances. And what I have seen just in my very short stint in the NFL and the way the world is now, it's all about keeping up with the Joneses. And a lot of times Joneses aren't methodical. Joneses aren't living in a 3-bedroom house that's just what they need. It's the 7-bedroom house with 12 bathrooms for 12 people that they don't have in the room. It's the private jet going from, Austin to Waco for no reason. And so, having financial literacy, to your point, at any age is paramount to your ability to have a purpose-filled life. It is not all about the money. It's not all about the showy flashiness of it. And so I just think that if they do not implement that we're causing way more harm than good. And the people giving, most of the time, this is a generality, but most of the people giving the money to the kids already have their nest egg. These kids don't. And so how to incorporate an opportunity to show them, men and women that are playing sports, how to protect that for the longevity of life, knowing that your career will end one day on the field. And then it has to be just Bryce, the everyday, Target shopper. And that needs to be okay. And so it's going to be one of those things that I just love for the NCAA or the institutions and universities to implement something that has that financial literacy aspect.
Bryce,